What's up, guys? Welcome back. Excited to be doing this all over again. I am, yeah, once again, I'll remind myself and remind y'all I am looking forward to doing this and doing a few drafts. Today, we're going to do the second BBM Best Ball Mania over on Underdog. And we just went in. Let's pull up the screen. We have about 25 seconds before this draft starts. We will be drafting from the 12th spot today, so we get the back-to-back picks. Should be really interested to see how this draft turns out. And yeah, pretty exciting. Week 2, we just completed, what is it, preseason week 2 with the Bear, or actually, we haven't finished it. Tonight is the next set of games. We have the Bengals and the Commanders playing. Last night we got to see a little bit of the Bears and the Bills. Caleb Williams was out there looking pretty good within the first drive. Was able to go up the field 90 plus yards and score a touchdown. Really cool to see if we are following that closely right now with Ben Johnson. Pull up the draft board here. The draft is starting off pretty smooth. Nothing out of whack here yet. No one trying to flip the board like folks like to say. Jamar Chase going number 1, Saquon Barkley 2, Bijan Robinson at 3, or Bijan, like he corrected and told everyone it is. CeeDee Lamb at 4, Jahmyr Gibbs at 5, and Justin Jefferson at 6. What is our go here? Well, CMC just went 7. Okay. Love Malik Neighbors. Just a reminder again, these ranks aren't updated. This happened earlier in the summer when I was forced to do so. Go is Malik Neighbors right around this area. If Neighbors, which would not surprise me if he ends up going in these next 3 spots, I kind of like to go grab Brian Thomas Jr. because out of these wide receivers, he is someone I really like here. There goes Neighbors. Puka has been dropping, so well, in this case, it wouldn't really matter, right? Because I have a back-to-back pick. So, whichever of these two guys, I try to grab Genty here. I know he's fallen out of favor. There goes Thomas Jr. All right, we're gonna do something a little bit different today. Cool. Not opposed to Amon-Ra, but at the same time, love to take possibly Puka and Ashton Genty here, and that looks like the route we're gonna go. Very interesting with the Puka Nacua stuff. Matthew Stafford has yet to practice at training camp. Concerning for sure, given his back injury, and especially at this age. I believe he's like 38 or so, 39. Either way, back injuries are nothing to take lightly. And if he is not the starting quarterback, that means as of now, Jimmy Garoppolo, Jimmy G, would be the starting quarterback. I am not a Jimmy G fan at all, but that has nothing to do with fantasy. I still believe we are overreacting on Puka Nacua right now. I understand that Matthew Stafford has a tendency of targeting more guys than just his first read. So in this case, a lot of excitement was around Puka and Devontae Adams, who's one of the newest additions of the Los Angeles Rams. We're both going to carry a nice, healthy target share. But yeah, man, Puka Nacua is still one of the best wide receivers in the league. Some would argue he's a top 5 receiver, but nonetheless, a top 10 wide receiver in this league. And I think we're freaking out a little too much here. And the same goes with Devontae Adams. The reason behind the pick of Ashton Genty, there was a point during the summer and even in the spring. I mean, he was shooting up mid first round. There were times earlier on in the year where we were getting him later in the second round, but there was a sweet spot, I would say, as soon as he got drafted up until like maybe end of June, we were seeing him go anywhere in the middle to late first round. I have no issues taking Genty there. Really excited about that offense. With Geno Smith being a more competent quarterback at the position, and then they got Chip Kelly's offense that will be operating there. And if you saw Chip Kelly's offense, I mean, you can go as far back as the Philadelphia Eagles, but if you just look back at the last 2 years or last year for sure, with Ohio State and seeing how the run game looked with Travion Henderson and Quishon Judkins over there at Ohio State, it's really awesome. And another thing that I'm excited about that offense is Brock Bowers, who we saw get picked up just a little while ago. What pick did he go? Pick number 16. Brock Bowers is due for another massive season. This is after an already historic and good rookie year. One of the other exciting things about that is a lot of the 12 personnels that they're going to be running a lot. I think Michael Mayer is going to be the kid. He's the tight end who came out of Notre Dame, and they had drafted, I believe, in the second round the year before. I think there's a whole thing that they have over there, and I think Chip Kelly's going to unlock as far as those two tight ends go. Brock Bowers can line up anywhere on the field, and that's what makes him such a special weapon. All right, we are about to come up here. T. Higgins, Lamar just went. Not opposed to getting Devontae Adams here, guys. Garrett Wilson has been dropping in drafts. We talked about it in the last video. One of the main reasons why he's dropping in drafts is Justin Fields hasn't looked great. James Cook here too intrigues me as another running back around this area. I don't like where we're at here with the options currently on the board. Take a look at playoff opponents, obviously. Philly, Houston Giants for Vegas, and then the Rams are Detroit, Seattle, Atlanta. We don't need to force that here so quick. Let's go. I do like Marvin Harrison. Yeah, let's go with some Marvin Harrison. Same division as Puka Nacua, so they'll see each other at least twice. I do understand there is a bye week 8 here. We could go wide receiver and Garrett Wilson here, or we can go James Cook. I think I'm going to go with Cook and get a nice little running back setup here. Kind of maybe stay away a little bit from bye week 8, but I also don't want to force that. You don't want to jump too crazy just because your first 3 wide receivers might have bye week 8. As long as you're building a roster here that's going to have a pretty good as long as there's depth in that wide receiver room, you should be able to cover yourself for that bye week. I definitely don't want to move away from talent just because. So we'll keep an eye out here for that. But I did like Garrett Wilson there. He is really dropping, y'all. All right, let's pull up the board here. This is a perfect draft to have the board set up. Kind of see what people are doing. I'm always interested to see the route that the Lamar Jackson person goes with, because I've noticed that Zay Flowers doesn't go often, and that's fine if he doesn't go right here, but I'm curious if he drops for him at pick number 55. There goes Garrett Wilson. My God. Pick 43. There was a point he was getting drafted even before Marvin Harrison, who I just drafted, and he just went at pick 43. Marvin Harrison has also dropped a little bit too, because in this type of draft, you typically see him go within top of the 3rd. Yeah, somewhere around here, around this bucket. So it's very interesting to see. Man, wow. Okay. Yeah, McConkey going to 24. That's interesting. All right, so we got Terry McLaurin that just went. Rasheed Rice, pick 47. We are We're about 12 picks away. Let's take a look here at what we might see when our turn comes up. We can probably start taking a look at some playoff opponents, which, as a reminder, is week 15, 16, and 17. Not too sure yet how this stack is going to look, but we shall soon see. When it comes to Marvin Harrison, I'm a fan. I think Marvin Harrison, the expectation is he's going to have a bigger year this year, right? Going into year two, some wide receivers take a little longer to develop. Kyler Murray is just the guy who usually concerns me. He is so up and down. He's so, he's obviously capable of giving you a massive ceiling game, or with maybe anywhere north of 20 plus fantasy points. But man, when he gives you those stinkers and it's under 20 fantasy points, really truly makes you question. It's like, why am I drafting Kyler Murray where I'm drafting him when I could probably get a much more consistent quarterback in that area? And when we get to that point, we will discuss that. All right, we're about to come up here. Excuse me. Jalen Hurts just win. I am not opposed to a DK Metcalf. And Calvin Ridley has been going a lot sooner. There you go. See, 55. I thought he was going to get Zay Flowers. He did not. Calvin Ridley went pick 48. Yeah, he's been going a lot sooner now. Good for him. I'm a fan. All right. I think we're going to stick with the way things look right now. I like that we got James Cook last. We don't have to force another running back here. If one would have fell to us, that would have been perfect. We're obviously keeping an eye out for bye week 8 here. No need to worry. We're going to go with DK Metcalf. And then we're going to take Rome Odunze, who I mentioned in the last video I'm a little bit higher on than DJ Moore. I just think that ultimately Rome Odunze is going to be the wide receiver 1 of this offense. I think that the plan in this offense that Ben Johnson's going to have is going to be revolving a lot around Rome Odunze. And didn't mention this also in the last video. I drafted DJ Moore. He fell right where we needed him. He worked well with the correlation we had set up. When drafting Bears player, I am exposed to them. Some may call me biased. I'm just really excited for what Ben Johnson, from a fantasy perspective. If Ben Johnson is everything we think he's going to be, then you're going to want pieces of that offense. You saw it when you were drafting Detroit players the last couple of years. Their offenses were also in the top 5 the last couple of seasons. So anytime you have an offense that's clicking on all cylinders like that, you're going to want pieces of that. When it comes to the Bears specifically, that receiver room, there's a lot more depth. And if you watch the game last night, preseason week 2 versus the Buffalo Bills, you saw that within that first drive, Olamide Zaccheaus scored a touchdown. We're hearing a lot from camp that he has a role and he's going to be on the field a ton. He's a guy I've taken late in rounds just because of the exposure that I currently have with Caleb Williams. But one of the rules that I'm kind of set up, and if you're big on daily fantasy, one of the biggest things when you're doing stacks, it's good to have rules, especially if you're setting an optimizer. I'm more of a hand build guy, but rules become very important when building and when stacking and when setting up lineups. And in this case, when we are stacking, I've tried to avoid drafting DJ Moore and Luther Burden on the same teams. I'm not completely steering away from it, but I've tried not to do it as often because I think that if there's anyone in risk of losing that type of targets, it's going to be DJ on basically because of Luther Burden. I think that their styles at the wide receiver position is pretty similar, and they may be running a lot of the same route trees come mid to late season. May not see it early on, and Ben Johnson's such a creative guy. He's got a lot of tools in his bag. I'm sure he's going to obviously find ways to get these guys schemed to open. But I think if there's anyone who is correlated and can impact one another, it'll probably be DJ Moore to Luther Burden and in reverse. All right, we're a few picks away here. Just wanted to share those thoughts. Running back is looking quite interesting here. I also mentioned before, I do like Jordan Mason a lot. Here's to hoping Jordan Mason falls right in our laps. I know one of the guys that people have been a little bit concerned about has been Caleb Johnson, just because and there he goes. Reports are saying that he's like third on that depth chart. I think Kenneth Gainwell is ahead of him. I wouldn't read too much into that. He was drafted with full purpose of playing, and best ball. You don't ultimately need these guys to kick it all off week one. You just need them to be good as the season continues. Here I am hoping that Jordan Mason doesn't get picked. If he does, we're going to go with Jalen Warren and maybe Jaden Higgins here. Kind of like that route. Jordan Mason does get picked up. Of course he does. Brian Robinson Jr. just ended up in the news, I think yesterday or the day before yesterday, in regards to possibly getting traded. Washington is currently looking for a trade partner to trade him off here. Give me 1 second. This wouldn't have been a bad stack, by the way. Baker Mayfield and Chris Godwin. I'm going to go with Jaden Higgins here and add a little bit more. We have 2 bye week 5s. I didn't even talk about this early on, but again, it's not that big of a deal, which is why I didn't even mention it. But we kind of want to spread out a little bit of the bye weeks now as we start adding more into our wide receiver room. Back to Brian Robinson Jr. It looks as if Ja'Cory, Krosky, Merritt, JCM is, I mentioned him last video how much I am very fond of him and think he's a real big fantasy football sleeper this year to eventually take over RB1. I think that he is actually making a lot of noise right now and has made enough of an impact from the looks of it to be that guy. Brian Robinson Jr. will be someone to keep an eye out for. I'm not sure where he ends up. That's obviously going to be a big part of this. He ends up in a crowded running back room. It's going to impact where we're drafting him right now. And we're currently in the 90s. This might be too early if he ends up in a room like that. If he ends up on a team that is in desperate need of a running back, I mean, from the top of my head, it's kind of hard to think of one right now specifically, but there are tons. I mean, there's a ton of team that can use a guy like Brian Robinson Jr. Obviously, that would also impact how effective he could be. So I can see why this why this draft lobby right now is being a little hesitant on Brian Robinson Jr. We are 11 picks away. Let's pull up the board here. Let's kind of see what people are working on right now. We picked up. All right. So Brian Robinson just went pick number 96. Let's say there was a world where nothing happens and he stays on the team, then 96 was not a bad place to get him. Zach Charbonnet is getting picked up a little bit more. He's been around this area, but he's getting picked up a little earlier. I've noticed in a few drafts that I've done in the last couple of days. And a lot of it is reactionary due to the preseason. He scored a big touchdown early on in their preseason game. There goes J.K. Dobbins, who I fully expect the first couple of weeks to be RB1 starter, and then R.J. Harvey to eventually take over. Joe Mixon. Man, we really don't have much information on the Joe Mixon situation here. He's not a bad pickup here at pick number 99 if he really just misses a game or two. But again, we don't know. Luther Burden, I think that's a big reaction to what we saw last night. I love it. I wouldn't mind drafting him there at all. But now that folks are seeing what happened yesterday in that game, that's usually the reaction. Quishon Judkins winning with pick 103 after the information and news that we got recently that charges were dropped, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that. But in regards to possibly playing the full season, getting signed and going through, he was someone who was getting drafted around the 70s, 80s. So getting picked at 103 could be quite the value. All right, guys, let's look at what we have here. We have quarterbacks that we can look into. Guys like I think Bigsby just went. He looked really good during that preseason game. It's awesome to see. All right, guys, we could take a look at here. You know, 2 videos in a row of doing a stack is crazy. But Caleb Williams and Colston Loveland is not a bad duel to do here because I do need a tight end. And Mark Andrews just went. So that doesn't help my case. Is Bo Nix here? No, he is not. Not in love with Kyler Murray, y'all. I am perfectly fine with going with let's do this. Let's just do the Colston Loveland. It just seems so funny. I talk about my beloved Bears, and now I'm looking like the biggest homer here drafting these guys. But I am heavily exposed to them. And again, I told you, and I mentioned this in the last video, a lot of it has to do with Ben Johnson and what I think that they can offer in the offense and what I think Caleb Williams as a fantasy quarterback. I think he can end up being a top 10 fantasy contributor as far as the quarterback position goes. He's got a bit of a rushing upside, and if he's flowing any bit near what he did for last night's preseason game, you're going to be doing really well. Colston Loveland is my highest exposed tight end. And I'll mention it again. He's going to be a red zone threat. He's going to be a big part to what Ben Johnson is going to be doing in that offense. All right, we got a stack here. We got the Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze, Colston Loveland stack. We want to start correlating these guys a little bit. We have no one from the division, as I mentioned. That's been one of my personal strategies of doing, just because I know they play multiple games within their division. It's kind of fun to have a stack and a bring back just to get more exposure to those type of game environments, given with how competitive I believe this NFC North is going to be. Najee Harris is getting picked up a little bit earlier than lately. You know, he was getting picked up right around here a few months ago before that. We shouldn't say a few months ago, last month, right before his injury that happened on the 4th of July with the fireworks and his eyes. The eye injury he got, you were getting him anywhere near the 140s, the 150s, really late in there because no one obviously knew how long it would be before he comes back. All right, 12 picks away. Hey, I know I made the comments that I made about Kyler Murray. He just goes. I was going to make a point. If he drops to me here, absolutely going to take Kyler Murray. Not even thinking twice about that. Makes too much sense. We're looking for another stack. I'm just going to queue these 2 guys up. Why not bring them back together? I doubt they're there. 9 picks away. There goes Keenan Allen. He is gone. But this is typically what I like to do, especially with back-to-back picks. Not necessarily just grabbing stacks, but getting a feel for when I come up. Because usually if you're in the middle rounds, you're making a pick, and then you got a little bit before you make your picks again. Here we're ultra focused on, all right, do I need a stack? Stacking would be nice. Do I need to force a stack? No, I'm not forcing stacks. But in best ball formats, yes, stacking is important for sure. Guys, if Justin Fields drops this low, we're going to take him. He is in the DFS streets, what they like to say, naked quarterbacks. Justin Fields doesn't need a bring back. I mentioned why Garrett Wilson has dropped and why I'm totally fine drafting a player like Garrett Wilson, but Justin Fields in this case got picked up. It's not a bad pickup here. Let's see here. I actually wouldn't mind going quarterback. Let's go CJ Stroud here. We have Jaden Higgins. Makes too much sense. Christian Kirk already got picked up. That's perfectly fine too. Michael Penix, Kyle Pitts is out there. There's a few stacks. I might get Cam Scatterboo here. He's been dropping a little bit. Javonte Williams really intrigues me as well. Let's take CJ here. Let's take a look. some of the Giants, Washington, Minnesota, and Vegas. That actually works really well with what I want to do. New York becomes by week 17, which by then we should hope and expect that he is maybe RB1 then, if not, has a significant role in that offense. There goes CJ Stroud. So we took Cam Scatterboo, who's dropped tremendously. ADP was at 116. We got him at 132. Nothing bad at all than taking value on the board. Let's pull up the board as I mentioned that. Let's see who this gentleman got. Jared Goff. See, guys like Jared Goff, and look at that, Amon-Ra St. Brown. You could not be mad. Wow. Cross-game Merritt is getting picked up earlier, y'all. News is hitting hard when it comes to that, but I love it. I was able to get a lot of late rounds JCM for best ball. But yeah, going back to Jared Goff. Jared Goff is the type of quarterback like CJ Stroud. They don't have a ton of rushing upside. Some of them don't even have any, if anything at all. Jared Goff doesn't. I'm never dependent on a Jared Goff rushing abilities, rushing touchdown, none of that. Therefore, guys like him, I really want to stack. And not just stack one receiver, I may want two. So at this point of the draft, this gentleman here, pick 11, right before us, has Amon-Ra St. Brown, has no one else, but that's all right. If you're him, you are looking at, I believe his name is Isaac Tesla, the rookie, who's looked and fared really well. A lot of good news coming out of camp. He's looked really great in the preseason. That's someone, if I am him, I am aiming for to add to that stack. Speaking of stack, we got another one here with Drake May and rookie Kyle Williams. We got, let's see here, which one? I always like to look at the one hole. This is where the draft really starts. So this guy, this individual went with Jamar Chase, Ladd McConkey, Trey McBride, Calvin Ridley, two of my guys right here, Ricky Pearsall, Deebo Samuel, Tony Pollard. And he's off to a decent start. Look at that. He already took Cam Ward. I'm telling you, quarterbacks now more than ever have been flying off the board. Before, you were able to get quarterbacks late. Now you have to make an emphasis on getting your quarterbacks, which is why I kind of looked at CJ Stroud there and said, I can't go much longer without taking him. I need a quarterback. I am not going to start or go into the next couple rounds with just one quarterback on the board. All right, another player to keep an eye out. I think we're going to go quarterback here once again. Might take one of these running backs based on what we're seeing here. Let's see. Still got one tight end. Brenton Strange has looked really good too this offseason. Let's go. If Bryce Young is here, I'm going to take Bryce Young. Yeah, these quarterbacks are going to kind of fall off the cliff here. I'm not opposed to getting Geno Smith, by the way. I got Ashton Genty. Genty is going to be contributing a ton in a pass-catching role as well. For those that didn't know, he was also a wide receiver turned quarterback. I mean, turned running back, apologies. DJ Giddens, interesting. That is quite early. Tajay Spears dropping this low is interesting, too. Romeo Dobbs. I might go Romeo here. Bryce Young, we did mention him. You know what? Let's do the beautiful. When you have the last pick here and you get these back-to-back, and same goes for the first overall pick, you get back-to-backs on the wraparounds, you get to do things like this. Draft quarterback with their receiver and get to line a stack. Xavier Legette had somewhat of an up and down season. For fantasy purpose, he did just fine. I think overall as a wide receiver, you want to see more year two. Ball tracking skills didn't look the greatest, and drops here and there. He needs to clean up. They just drafted Ted McMillan, with their first round pick. They added Hunter Renfro to that wide receiver room. I don't think Adam Thielen is expected to have a big year. He's coming down from his playing days, truthfully, in my opinion. And Jalen Coker has looked really good last year, undrafted free agent out of Holy Trinity. He's really good, y'all. And I think he's got a really solid rapport with Bryce Young, even as wide receiver 3 or 4 in that offense. So Xavier Legette has a clear role right now. Let's hope he stays with it, especially since he is on our team. Let's take a look here what we have before pulling up the board. At quarterback position, we have Caleb Williams, we have CJ Stroud, and we have Bryce Young. All 3 quarterbacks are stacked. Running backs, we have Ashton Jeanty, we have James Cook, Jalen Warren, Cam Scatteraboo. At wide receiver, we have Puka Nacua, Marvin Harrison Jr., DK Metcalf, Rome Odunze, Jaden Higgins, Xavier Legette, and at tight end, we have Colston Loveland. We are going to look at the tight end position as we come up here. Again, I'm not a fond of forcing picks. We'll see how the board keeps looking. Right now, from the looks of it, don't know what we did there. Right now, from the looks of it, there has been a massive run at the running back position. Mason Taylor. This is good for anyone who drafted Justin Fields. Braylon Allen, when did he go? 122, see? Going a lot earlier, y'all. He was going around the 150s, 140. So, yeah, basically round 12 and 13 is where you saw a lot of them. Matthew Stafford just went here, pick 173. I haven't seen too much of a drop for him. Maybe in a draft or two, but not as much as you're typically used to. And don't be mistaken, Matthew Stafford is a really good fantasy quarterback. Doesn't sound like it. There is no rushing upside, but because of how much he targets his wide receivers, he typically averages about 20, 22 fantasy points. Excuse me. Around 20 to 22 fantasy points a game. That's huge. That's huge in fantasy. That's what you want. You want that floor, and he's got one of the safest floors out of quarterbacks. All right, let's go here. We are about 2 picks away. What do we have on the board? Chig Okonkwo. We have Nick Chubb. Is not a bad move here. I'm not opposed to Quentin Johnston. And Nick Chubb obviously goes when I start talking about him, right? Well, we talked about Austin Eckler. I know the excitement with JCM is there. Who's to say that this guy can't still do something, especially in round 15, end of round 15 for round 16. Tight ends. I want a tight end here. I could go Quentin Johnston. I don't think Jatavian Sanders will be there by the time we come back. Let's see. All right. I was going to take Quentin Johnston. I think he's dropped a ton for the kind of value. He has a spike weeks. He's huge on that. His kind of reputation right now in the league. I mean, it was in college too. He went to TCU. One of his reputation was drops. Huge on that, and it's frustrating, especially when Herbert would get such a nice ball thrown his way and Johnston would just drop a clear touchdown. And as a fantasy player, it's frustrating. Very frustrating when you think you're about to get a nice score there to help your team out. But yeah, Johnson got a concussion the other day during his preseason game, which is in part to why he's dropped here. I still think he's value because, like I said, when he does have good games, and he actually had a really good year last year compared to the previous years. He's your prototypical X receiver there. Lad McConkey is going to be I mean, he can literally line up anywhere, slot, outside. He actually, his name, he's gotten a lot of known for being a slot receiver, and this notion that that's all he is. Back in Georgia, Lad McConkey was sliding out more more often than not. He was on the outside as well, just dominating there. But that's what makes guys like him really good players to have on an actual NFL roster, right? Bringing in Keenan Allen, I believe he's going to be just strictly in the slot. So that might just keep Lad McConkey outside. Really interested to see that. We know Greg Roman, as far as being a fantasy player, Greg Roman typically leans on his guys. There goes Jalen Coker. I was hoping he was going to be there for us, y'all. Greg Roman's offense and Jim Harbaugh, right? Their offenses are usually run heavy. Justin Herbert had multiple games where he was throwing for more than 30 plus attempts, which typically you don't see in those type of offense. The Colin Kaepernicks, Lamar Jacksons, when they were under Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh. So it really was refreshing to see Justin Herbert get those opportunity. And what makes also Justin Herbert, and let's give a little shout out to Justin Herbert, and I think he's going to have a big year this year, is because they're finally utilizing him more as a running quarterback too. He has rushing abilities. He has that type of upside. Now, I'm not going to put him up there with Lamar, of course not. That was something he did at Oregon. He was running. He was getting, he was scoring with his legs. Another guy who's very underrated in that area too is, we are about to get Quentin Johnston, guys. Another guy who's really underrated in that department is Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence at Clemson is also known for that. All right, Quentin Johnston here, guys. Yeah, where to take him? This is a big drop, huge drop. Who else is here? Well, you guys already know how I feel about Adonai Mitchell. We're going to take Jalen Noel. We have CJ Stroud, and I like stacking these two kids here. Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, both played at Iowa State. Both really good wide receivers out there in college. So cool to see Houston draft both guys. We just saw John Mechie get traded. John Mechie, the third, I believe. Yes, the third, the second, the third. All right. Well, anyways, John Mechie played at Alabama, was excellent out there. He was with Bryce Young. It's a really good target for Bryce Young at Alabama. And hasn't really panned out in the NFL. I know he, his first year was he wasn't able to play the whole year due to his circumstances that he had over that offseason. But John Mechie was just traded to the Philadelphia Eagles, really opening up a new way for a guy like Jalen Noel. It sounds like Jaden Higgins is going to be playing opposite of Nico Collins. They already have Christian Kirk. So this wide receiver room has been already buffed up a little bit, if we can use that word here. And who's the other guy? There's a few other wide receivers I'm trying to think of right now from the top of my head. There's one more I'm missing. We got Jaden Higgins, Nico Collins, Christian Kirk, Jalen Noel. Tank Dell's out this year, so you won't get to see a lot. You think the other one's Xavier Hutchinson, who's probably going to be. We'll see if he makes. If he makes it this year. All right, Ollie Gordon got picked up there. That's actually not a bad pickup. Yeah, this draft was interesting. This draft went by really quick, a lot quicker than I expected. We will review our team here. Excuse me, I'm sorry, y'all. Isaiah Bond, look at him. If you did a lot of the big boards early on, pre-NFL draft, I got a lot of Isaiah Bond in the 18th round, so it's just funny to see him now that he is signed with the Cleveland Browns. Get picked up there. We haven't even seen him in training camp. He hasn't really fully practiced. Like, we're not really getting a lot of him yet, so I guess people are just betting on the talent, obviously, and hoping he has that kind of year. I think it's a little bit of a risk at this point, but risk worth taking in the later rounds if you're able to do that. All right, here's our team. We drafted Caleb Williams, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young at the quarterback. So we went 3, 5, 8, and 2. This is a very popular build right here, the 3, 5, 8, and 2. I have mentioned in the last video that 2 quarterbacks, I would typically do this when I get a top tier quarterback, elite quarterback, the Josh Allen, Lamar Jacksons of the world. When I get those type of quarterbacks, you're probably good building around them and whoever else you get, probably in the middle area, which is the area you see the Caleb Williams, CJ Stroud, Trevor Lawrence, Baker Mayfield, Brock Purdy, that kind of bucket of quarterbacks. I'm cool with drafting alongside one of those top end quarterbacks. 5 running backs, no bye weeks overlapping here. Do like this. We have 2 young players in Ashton Genty and Cam Scatteraboo. Then we got James Cook and Jalen Warren. The running back room is good, not great, but it's still good. And I think it's good enough as long as these 2 hold it down and anchor this team. And as long as these 2 are the starters on week in and week out, we're good. I would hope that these 3 guys are really more fulfilling those bye weeks. As when you draft, usually you want your starters to be the starters. In the wide receiver room, we have Puka Nacua, Marvin Harrison Jr., DK Metcalf, Rome Odunze, Jaden Higgins, Xavier Legette, Quentin Johnston, who dropped, look at that, ADP 173 to pick 204. There was a point where you were drafting him with pick 1, somewhere in the 130s, y'all. And we just got him at the very end of the draft. I technically could have just flipped, and I should have done that for the sake of making this look just better, right? Could have just drafted Jalen Noel first and then Quentin Johnston just to say we got an 18th round value on Quentin Johnston. Quentin Johnston should be able to pay off that price. And then we got Jalen Noel, who I think will be more of a contributor as the season goes. I think fantasy-wise, I think he's going to be really good. I play a little college football DFS, and I think Jalen Noel was really fun to roster on those builds. At tight end, a little thinner. We went with Colston Loveland and Jatavian Sanders. I think if there's one position that you can afford to take zeros on when doing best balls, it's usually the tight end room. There are drafts that I've done where I'm a little more bullish. The tight end bullies. I've done one recently where I have Sam Laporta and Mark Andrews, 2 guys that, obviously you're going to get one of them to start, but maybe the other one ends up in the flex. That's not what I'm expecting from this tight end room. If it happens, great. You're not mad at that at all. Let's hope for a healthy and productive season from both guys. But most importantly, they're stacked with my 2 quarterbacks, which gives them even more value, because if one of these 2 guys are going off, the hopes are that they're taking their tight ends with them. All right, y'all. That is about it. This is the board, as you guys see here. Really, really good draft here. Like I said, it went by quicker than usual. Can't be mad at that. I'll be doing another video soon. My plans are to draft out of DraftKings, which I shared not too long ago. That lobby, $2 million up top. And I don't have many teams there yet, but the fill rate there has not come close to the fill rate here on Underdog, which is closing in a lot quicker. Let's take a look real quick here. Let's go drafts. Yeah. Best Ball Mania. Where are we? 73% fill rate, and we're just a few weeks away. Yeah. I'll definitely be getting a few more in this. I want to do at least 3. I know I mentioned my goal is 5. BBM's Best Ball Mania, and then 5 DraftKings Best Ball. Then once the season starts, we get to enjoy all football. I plan to do a lot of fantasy football content as well, and we'll do maybe some DFS lineups. I'm a big single entry guy, so big hand builder, but love to go through some topics. I want to also do some recordings on week by week previews, game environments, things of that nature, players I'm keen and on for that whole week, and waiver wire pickups. I'm going to do a little bit of all things fantasy football, y'all. Please do me a favor, like and subscribe. Also, do me a favor and drop a comment below. Let me know what you think of this draft. Let me know players you guys are in on, who might be your highest exposed players. If you're doing home league drafting, which a lot of us are doing, I have a few coming up. Let me know who's that guy you're gonna go with in the first round, or maybe a sleeper that you have. Excited to build a community where we could just share ideas and just really talk about the very thing that we all love, especially if you're watching this, and that's football, fantasy football. Appreciate y'all. Thank you so much for listening. And until next time, peace.